Hello my loves, welcome back to another video. I hope that you are all having an incredible day, night, whatever it is, wherever you are. In this video, I'm going to run you guys through 15 daily habits that I aim to do every day that are really supportive of your hormones. So they help me with things like regulating my menstrual cycle, experiencing less PMS, experiencing less cramps, bloating, mood swings, all the things, and they can also help with fertility if that's your kind of thing. Something I just wanted to very quickly preface is that I know that I use the language hormone balancing and balancing your hormones or fixing your hormones or whatever it may be, but your hormones being out of balance isn't a disease or a diagnosis within itself. Your hormones being out of balance is actually the result of something else going on within your body. So if your hormones are out of whack, if you are estrogen dominant, have low progesterone, whatever it is, and those things are affecting your cycle, giving you really intense PMS, affecting your fertility, all of those things, then that is a sign that there is actually something not quite right going on within your body that is then causing those things. So a lot of the habits that I'm sharing with you today, you will notice they don't directly address hormones necessarily. They positively impact your health overall, because if your health overall is in a better spot, then that will positively impact your hormones and your menstrual cycle and help you to reduce PMS, all the things. I just wanted to quickly pop that in there and also say that everyone's bodies are so incredibly different and what each of us need is so different. So these things alone might work for someone and be all that they need to balance out their hormones and get a normal cycle again, but that doesn't mean that these things will necessarily work for you. However, I still highly encourage you to implement them because, as I said, they are just so supportive of our overall health, and I find these things really foundational. These things aren't any fancy crazy habits. These are things that I think are foundational, and I think that every single woman should be implementing in their everyday life wherever they can. But take what lands, take what you think you need the most right now. Do not overwhelm yourself and overhaul your life and feel like you need to implement every single one of these every single day. You do not by any means need to be perfect. Just strive to do these things more often than not. So first and foremost, and arguably the most important thing for hormonal health, is actually getting enough sleep and getting a good quality sleep. Sleep is so important for so many reasons. That is when our body heals and recovers. If you do not get enough good quality sleep, that quite literally has a domino effect on your entire day. So please prioritize getting enough sleep and getting good quality sleep. And also, as a female, you might actually need more sleep than you think you do. So general sleep recommendations are around 7 to 8 hours, but that is actually based off of males, and studies are starting to come out saying that females actually need 8 to 9 hours of sleep per night, and maybe even upwards of 9 hours if you are in your late luteal phase, so the week just before your period starts. So wherever possible, just try and make sure that you are actually getting 8 to 9 hours of sleep per night, and that will mean that you have to spend a little bit longer in bed, because for example, if you went to bed at 10 p.m. and you woke up at 6 p.m, yes, that is an 8-hour gap, but it takes you a little bit to fall asleep, and then we actually wake up quite a few times throughout the night, so you may only end up getting 7 hours sleep. So extend the period of time that you're in bed a little bit longer so that you can actually get that 8 to 9 hours of sleep, and also try and make it good quality sleep wherever possible. So make sure that your bed is comfy. Try to avoid eating really close to sleep, because then your body will be focusing too much on digesting and it won't be able to get into a deep sleep. Try to avoid going on your phone an hour before bed, because that'll really wire your brain, and again, you'll struggle to get into a deep sleep. Use earplugs or an eye mask if you need to, so that you can try and have as much of an uninterrupted sleep as possible. Try to avoid drinking lots of liquid too close to bed, because then obviously that will mean you have to wake up in the middle of the night to go to the toilet. And you can also take something like magnesium glycinate, which can really help you get a better night's sleep. My next tip for supporting your hormones, and probably the one that's made the biggest difference for me personally, is having 30 grams of protein within an hour of waking up. The recommendations really vary on this. Some people say 25 grams of protein within half an hour of waking up. Some people say 30 grams of protein within an hour of waking up. Some people say more protein within an hour of waking up. So the recommendations are varied, but I think just in general, don't overthink it. Just have a good chunk of protein within at least an hour of waking up. This is just so important for so many reasons. I find when I don't have my breakfast until a while after I've woken up, like an hour and a half, 2 hours, I end up being a lot lower on energy throughout the day, having a lot more energy crashes, being a little bit more moody, all of the things. So having breakfast close to waking up and making sure it has enough protein. First of all, having the protein is going to kick off your muscle protein synthesis for the day. In the morning after we wake up, our cortisol, which is our stress hormone, is naturally quite high. So if you're getting in enough protein, that can help to blunt that cortisol response a little bit so that your cortisol doesn't go haywire. And then by this point, you've probably been fasting for like 12 or something hours between now and when you had your dinner, and fasting for extended periods of time is not ideal for women. So it's really good to have your brekkie close to waking up to break that fast and get some food in your system, and also make sure that it is not just naked carbs, and by that I mean carbs by themselves without protein, fat, fiber, etc. Having carbs by themselves will spike your blood sugar levels beyond the levels that we actually want them to spike. And then if you have that huge blood sugar spike in the morning, they're probably going to be on a roller coaster for the rest of the day. So you're going to be having lots of spikes, and then you're also going to be having lots of crashes, which is when you have your energy crashes, you feel irritable, so on and so forth. So yeah, just make sure that you are having a decent chunk of protein within an hour of waking up. So I've been awake for about an hour and a half, and ideally I would get some sunlight a little bit closer to waking up, but I wake up at 5 a.m. and the sun currently isn't rising until 6:30 a.m. So that's not going to happen, but that's okay. I'm just doing the best I can, getting sunlight in as soon as I can. Getting sunlight in your eyes, on your skin early in the morning is really supportive of your circadian rhythm. Our circadian rhythm is essentially just responsible for when we sleep and when we should be awake and energetic, etc. So getting sunlight in your eyes, the sunlight emits blue lights, and that blue light essentially suppresses the production of melatonin, which is our sleepy hormone, and increases the production of cortisol. So essentially it just helps to make you feel less sleepy and more awake and lively and full of energy. Now, cortisol can have a little bit of a negative connotation around it because yes, it is our stress hormone, but it also helps us to feel awake and lively and full of energy. So having adequate cortisol is actually really important if you want to feel energetic throughout the day, which is why doing stuff like this to support your circadian rhythm so that you can have the right levels of cortisol at the right times and be awake and lively at the right times is really beneficial. And then the next thing is, if you want to have caffeine in the morning, try to make sure that you are having it at least 90 minutes after waking up and after you have had that protein-rich breakfast in the morning. If you are having your coffee really close to waking up and on an empty stomach, that can spike your cortisol levels a lot when they are already relatively high in the morning. And yes, cortisol is really important and really important for feeling awake, but we also don't want to spike it extremely high because that then can lead to you feeling jittery and stressed and everything like that. Coffee in general isn't amazing for our hormonal health, especially if you are someone that already has like really high cortisol. You're already extremely like stressed and on edge all the time and everything like that. The caffeine is a stressor on our body, so it's not ideal in situations like that. So in general, I would kind of just recommend to try and decrease your caffeine intake as much as possible. But I know that there are a number of reasons that people really enjoy having coffee, for the taste or experience or social aspect or whatever it is. So if you do want to keep coffee in your day for whatever reason, which is okay, just try and keep it to 90 minutes after waking up and after you have already had a protein-rich breakfast. Hydration is so important. We all know that by now, right? But so many of us are still not hydrated enough. So I'm going to tell you again, but hydration is so important for overall health and therefore so important for our hormonal health. It's important for our cellular health. It's important for liver and detoxification. And detoxing properly plays a huge role in all of our hormones being balanced and in harmony. It's important for circulation. It's important for cortisol and our stress response, because being dehydrated is a stressor on the body. It's honestly just important for pretty much everything within our body. So please make sure that you are drinking enough water. And then on top of that, just to make it a little bit more confusing, you also want to make sure that you are hydrating properly. So just chugging a bunch of water also isn't ideal, because if you're just chugging a bunch of plain water all day long, then you're probably flushing a bunch of minerals and nutrients and everything out of your body, and I'm going to touch on minerals a little bit later. So yes, you want to make sure that you're hydrating enough, so drinking enough water, but you also want to make sure that you're hydrating properly and getting lots of minerals and electrolytes and whatever in. So this can look like having a pinch of some high quality sea salt alongside of your water. You can put this in your water, but I don't really like the taste of that, so I prefer to just have a pinch on the side. You can also use electrolyte powders just to make sure it's a high quality one. So there's one by the brand LMNT. I've never tried that one, but I know it's spoken very highly of, so you can use electrolyte powders. You can also drink coconut water. Coconut water is really good and really hydrating and really high in minerals. You can use mineral drops. Just do some things like that throughout your day to help actually hydrate your body properly. Without the electrolytes found in those things like sodium, potassium, magnesium, etc., your body won't actually absorb the water as efficiently, meaning it might just pass through your body, pass through your cells without actually hydrating them properly. So you don't need to have something like that every single time you drink water. Just a few times throughout the day, try to have a pinch of sea salt, try to have a little bit of coconut water, try to have an electrolyte packet, because it will help your hydration a lot. At the moment, I'm having my choc chia seed mousse with honey and raspberries. This is delicious. I'm obsessed with this at the moment. I filmed myself making this for Instagram, so that should hopefully be up by the time this video goes up if you want to go check that out. But this bowl right here has like 12 grams of fiber in it, I think, something like that, which brings me on to my next point, and that is to make sure that you are consuming enough fiber. So the average recommendation for an adult female is about 25 grams of fiber per day. Fiber is incredibly important for your gut, and our gut influences pretty much everything in our body, including our hormonal health. So make sure that you're eating enough fiber. I will put a list on the screen of a bunch of high fiber foods. I will say, if you are currently consuming next to no fiber, I would not recommend going straight to 25 grams of fiber per day, because you will probably find that you start to feel a little bit bloated and gassy and stuff like that. So just gradually work your way up. But this bowl, I have been having this on repeat lately, and it has really helped me get to my fiber goal every single day, because this is literally like half of the fiber that I need today, and it is so delicious, which is just a bonus. I am just making some lunch at the moment. I'm having the sweet potato, beef, cottage cheese, avocado, honey bowl thing that was viral on TikTok a couple months ago. But my next 3 tips are around blood sugar balance, and I just wanted to give a little bit of context as to what blood sugar balance is and why it's actually so important. So essentially, when we eat carbs, our body breaks those carbs down into glucose, and then that glucose then enters our bloodstream, and our body then releases a hormone called insulin, which helps to move that glucose into our cells so that the body can then use that as energy. So carbs and glucose are our body's main source of energy. Now this is a good thing because we want energy, right? But what can sometimes go wrong is oftentimes as a society we just eat very carb heavy meals without enough of the other macronutrients like fat and protein. And when you're having too many carbs by themselves, this makes your blood sugar spike by a lot. And you might think, that's great, that means more energy. Yes, it can mean more energy, but generally a spike, so a spike in blood sugar, is followed by our body overcompensating, so it's then followed by a huge drop. So you might have a little energy spike, and then that's generally followed by a blood sugar crash, which is when you experience things like low energy, irritability, all the things. And when that blood sugar crashes, this is also extremely stressful on the body because it also makes our cortisol levels rise. So essentially we just want to do a few things to try and keep our blood sugar levels a lot more stable so that we don't have those huge blood sugar spikes, which are then followed by the blood sugar crashes. This is important for our hormone health because if you are having a lot of those blood sugar crashes every single day, then you probably have chronically high stress and cortisol levels. And when our stress levels are high, our body thinks it is not a safe time to reproduce, so it will then downregulate a lot of your sex hormones and cause you all sorts of problems with your menstrual cycle. So the first thing that we want to be doing to help this is making sure that you are eating consistently throughout the day. So I like to eat every 3 or 4 hours, sometimes slightly more, sometimes slightly less. It kind of depends on how big the meal is that you're having. So obviously if I just had a snack, then I'm probably going to eat 2 to 3 hours later, or if I have a huge, very filling meal, then I probably don't need to eat until at least 4 hours later. So yeah, just make sure that you are eating consistently throughout the day, because if you go too long between meals, then you'll also have one of those blood sugar crashes. And if you eat more consistently throughout the day, that'll help to keep your blood sugar levels stable, and that'll make your body think that food and nutrients are consistent and readily available, so it'll feel a lot safer to reproduce and then therefore have a healthy cycle. And I do also just want to say that all of this stuff is important even if you don't want to reproduce. Even if you don't want to have a child right now or at all, that is perfect and fine, but it is still so important for our bodies as females to have a consistent, healthy menstrual cycle and be able to fall pregnant. And yes, I know that there are other things that can affect your ability to fall pregnant. I totally get that, but just for the general population, it is so incredibly important for our health as females to have a healthy, consistent menstrual cycle. It is such a key sign of good health, and if you don't have a healthy, consistent menstrual cycle, then that is a sign that there is something going on in your body that is not healthy. Excuse my red eyes, I just had a little cry due to something that I'm going to talk about in a future video. But anyway, lunch is ready. So the next thing that is really important for blood sugar balance is, I think I mentioned this when I was having breakfast, but to not have naked carbs, and by that I just mean carbs by themselves. You also want to make sure that you are having enough protein alongside that carbs, and ideally enough fat and enough fiber. So obviously the sweet potato is carbs, but there's also some fiber in that which helps. And then in the avocado we've got fiber and fat. And we've got the mince for protein, and then the cottage cheese for protein as well. So when you pair your carbs with protein, fat and fiber, it helps to slow down the digestion of the carbs a little bit. So instead of having that huge rush of glucose and blood sugar from the carbs, instead it's more of a gradual, steady rise. So doing some form of movement after your meals can really help to reduce that glucose spike. I like to literally just do a 10-15 minute walk, but do whatever movement feels good to you. It could literally just be getting up and cleaning the house. And the reason this works is when we move, we're using our muscles, so our muscles contract, and this helps to get the glucose into our cells, into our muscles more efficiently, so that that glucose doesn't hang around in our bloodstream for as long and cause that blood sugar spike. So studies have shown that a short walk after eating can lower post-meal glucose levels by up to 20 to 30%. It is 4:45 and I'm just about to head out for a sunset walk. I like to get out and watch the sunset whenever possible. Firstly, it's just a really beautiful, calming way to end the day and sort of transition from work, hustle mode into calm down, relax, ready for sleep. But also it's really good for our hormones because it's good for our circadian rhythm and can help us sleep a little bit better. So when the sun is setting, it emits red lights, and those red lights tell our body that it is time to wind down, it's time to get ready for bed, get ready for sleep. It'll help your cortisol drop and it'll help your melatonin rise, which again is your sleepy hormone. Once the sun has gone down, I really try to stick to using warm, dim lights, because lights like these ones, the bright white lights that are usually on the ceiling, emit a lot of blue light. So they can really disrupt your circadian rhythm, making your body think that it is time to be awake and be energetic when it's actually time to sleep. So in our bedroom, I have swapped to these red lights. These are just from Bunnings. They're like color changing lights, so I can have them any color, and I just have them on red over night time. That's really good and really useful for winding down, because the red in the light closely mimics the red that is in the sunset, so helps again to make our body recognize that it's time to wind down. But you don't have to go to that extreme and go out and actually get red lights, but just try your best to avoid using the harsh bright white lights that are on the ceiling, and instead try and turn on a bunch of lamps with dull warm lights. So like, I only have those red light bulbs in our room. The rest of the house, I just have normal light bulbs, but this is like a very dim, more orangey light bulb. And I have those in all of the lamps throughout our house, so that I can put the lamps on over nighttime instead of the big lights, and they're not as harsh. I also use this red filter on my phone so that my screen doesn't emit so much blue light. It's just under settings, accessibility, display and text size, color filters, and then you can turn it on there. And then I just use color tint, and then I think you can change the hue, and then just swipe it all the way across to red. Then you can change the intensity there as well. So yeah, I use that. I turn that on every night as soon as the sun has set, and I actually have a feature where I can just triple click this side button to turn it on and off, and it's super helpful. So doing things to support and replenish our minerals is so important, because our minerals are so important for so many functions in our body. And when we are in a chronically stressed state, which a lot of us are without even realizing it, when we're in a stressed state, we actually burn through minerals quite quickly. So it's important to do things to try and replenish those minerals as much as possible. So I like to make myself an adrenal cocktail pretty much every single day. This is full of minerals. I have coconut water in here, which is full of potassium, and it also has some sodium in there, and then I also put in cream of tartar, which is really good for potassium, and Celtic sea salt, which is really good for sodium. And then there's also some fresh orange juice in here for some vitamin C. And then I also put some coconut milk in there just to get a little bit of healthy fats, and it also makes it taste a little bit better and taste kind of like a tropical drink, in my opinion. So I have one of these pretty much every single day. It's called an adrenal cocktail because it supports our adrenal glands, and our adrenal glands are the things that pump out the stress hormones. So when you are stressed, our adrenals can get really taxed and really fatigued, and all of the minerals and vitamin C that are in here can really help to support your adrenals. And then also magnesium is another mineral that's really important to replenish, because that's another one that we chew through a lot when we are stressed. And it's also really hard to get enough magnesium in our diet because our soil just doesn't have as much nutrients as it used to. So I would always say food first. Take a food first approach. Don't supplement eat as much whole foods as possible to get in all of the nutrients that you need. However, magnesium is quite hard to get in adequate amounts through our diet. So I like to supplement with magnesium. I use 2 magnesiums. I use a magnesium fort. It's from the Herbs of Gold brand. And then I also use a magnesium night, and I take this one before bed. So I take this twice throughout the day, and then I take the night one of a nighttime. This one has magnesium glycinate in there, which is my favorite form of magnesium that I always recommend. When you're getting a magnesium supplement, make sure that you're actually looking into the form of magnesium that is included, because there are a few magnesium forms that aren't so great for your digestion and don't absorb very well and all of the things. So yeah, always consult with a health professional first, of course, but more often than not, it's a good idea to try and supplement with some magnesium. And then you can also get like mineral drops. I can't think of the brand right now, but there's something, I think it might literally just be called trace mineral drops or something like that. And obviously that has minerals in there that you can pop in a drink, pop in water, whatever it is, to help replenish your minerals. So actively working on regulating your nervous system and sending your body signals of safety throughout the day, and not being so damn chronically stressed all the time, is so important for your hormonal and menstrual health. I would actually argue that one of the reasons that hormonal and menstrual health issues are so prevalent in young females right now is because we are all so chronically stressed, and our nervous system is so dysregulated without us even realizing it. And the reason that stress in our nervous system can impact our hormonal health so much is that there's something in our brain called the hypothalamus. Now, the hypothalamus speaks directly to our nervous system and takes signals from our nervous system and then speaks to our endocrine system. Now, our endocrine system is what controls all of the hormones within our body. So that hypothalamus can literally take a signal from the nervous system saying we are stressed as hell, and then it will send that signal to the endocrine system and say, we are currently really chronically stressed. Right now is not a safe time for us to reproduce, because right now our main priority is survival, and it is not a safe time to have a baby. And the reason that we are wired this way, for our body to not want to have babies when we are stressed, is because when you think, however long ago it was, hundreds, thousands of years ago, when we were stressed, that was generally because we were running from a tiger, we were fighting for our life, whatever it may be. And if you think about running from a tiger, you probably do not want to be pregnant and or looking after a baby in that moment. Your focus is purely on survival and getting out of that. So our mind is still wired that way, to think when we are stressed, it needs to do things like shutting down ovulation so that we can't reproduce. And when we shut down ovulation or have a not very healthy ovulation via quality of egg or whatever, then that can have a huge cascade effect on all of your hormones. Anyway, that didn't really matter. I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of context on why supporting your nervous system is so important and can directly impact your hormones. Now, the part that you guys actually care about, what to do about this. I like to actively focus on regulating my nervous system every single day, and what I like to do is give myself a couple different checkpoints throughout the day where I will kind of give my body signals of safety, and I will kind of try and find calm. So throughout my day, I like to, there's a bunch of things that you can do to regulate yourself. So you could do things like diaphragmatic breathing, which is essentially just really deep nose breaths and really breathe into your ribs, feel your belly expand, and then slowly breathe out throughout your mouth. So you can do that, or any other type of breath work. You can do just normal like meditation. You can try the reset position, which is essentially just where you lie down either with your legs up on a 90-degree angle or up against the wall for upwards of 5 minutes. You can go outside and ground yourself by putting your feet on the earth, listening to the sounds of nature without any headphones in or anything like that. You can do EFT tapping. You can do things like butterfly taps, ear circles. There's a bunch of things that you can do to help regulate your nervous system. So pick your poison, pick whatever sounds good to you, and just try and do that a couple times throughout the day. But also regulating your nervous system can look like getting off your phone, not scrolling so much, getting out of really toxic, unhealthy relationships, getting out of workplaces that are incredibly toxic and stressing you out, working through trauma, because that can quietly dysregulate your nervous system without you even realizing it, setting boundaries with people and becoming okay spending time doing absolutely nothing productive. So yeah, as you can see, there is a lot that goes into it, a lot that you can do, and I could make a whole video within itself on nervous system regulation, why it's so important and what to do. But moral of the story, nervous system regulation is so incredibly important, so stop just pushing it aside and prioritize feeling calm and safe within your body every day. Okay, so there are essentially two things that go into hormone balance. You need to be able to make hormones well and have your body feeling safe to make hormones well, and a lot of the things that I've already touched on in this video will help you make hormones well. But you also need to be able to detox hormones well. So sometimes some of the issues that you are seeing with your menstrual cycle and your hormones is that you are actually not detoxing your hormones very well, because once our hormones are made, they need to be detoxed out after we are done with them, in particular estrogen. And if you are not detoxing well, that estrogen can be reabsorbed into your body and then give you all of the symptoms of estrogen dominance, which is things like really heavy painful periods, breast pain, PMS, moodiness, all that sort of stuff. So what can you do in helping your body detox hormones properly? So supporting your body's detoxification is important all month long, but I like to focus on this in particular in my luteal phase. So that is the time between when you ovulate and when you get your period. So think the 1 to 2 weeks just before you get your period. That is when I really like to hone in on detoxification. One of our body's main ways of detoxing is pooping. So you need to be having good regular bowel movements. So do things that support that, like eating enough fiber, making sure you're hydrated enough, getting enough movement, all the things. That is really important for detoxification. But then you can also do some other little things, like saunas are obviously really good for helping you detoxify. You can do dry brushing, get lymphatic massages, or you can even do them yourself. Just look up on YouTube, like search lymphatic massage, and then you'll see some pretty easy ones to do at home. Those are really the main things that I do. These aren't things that I necessarily call daily habits or do all cycle long, but I just thought this was still really important to put in there, because detoxing is also really important for hormonal health and something that quite often gets missed.